YouTube, what the crap's going on? Welcome to the Badlands. This is HeirofCarthage, and we're going to be jumping into a Greenskin versus Chaos battle. You can see that my boys are already under fire from a Chaos Hell Cannon. Check out that sweet spire going on in the background. Game really is quite beautiful. Let's go check out the Chaos Army first. Actually, I'm going to click the ground so it'll fix my debug camera. The forces of Chaos right now are sporting a couple of Chaos Warriors with great weapons and a Chosen with great weapon on the front line, so very tough front line. A couple of Halberds to support. Chaos trash in the background, except for these aspiring champions who are a great pick. But honestly, the Marauders are actually probably a decent pick versus Greenskins in some ways, because they can be cheap fodder if the Greenskins are throwing fodder at your flanks. And the aspiring champions give you some nice options as well. Now, 2 Hell Cannons versus the Greenskins. It's an interesting thought, because my opponent put together a front line that's actually strong enough to hold up against Black Orcs for at least a little while. And he's probably hoping that he can bombard my Black Orcs enough with his Hell Cannons that they will lose to his infantry, and that's quite possible. And then back that up that Greenskins are very weak to psychology, so stuff like fear and terror. And he's got a Chaos Lord on the Dragon here. And a Exalted Hero on a Manticore, so he's gonna have a lot of terror bombing ability from the sky. So I think that he's obviously intent on trying to hold. He wanted to camp this high ground position, and I denied him that by just simply pulling back. And he could either sit there, or he could move forward to try and get his cannons in range. So whenever people bring cannons, I like to at least make them move. Make them do something. Sometimes you get mistakes out of them. In this case, I didn't really have any good Vanguard deploy options or anything to go after these Hell Cannons early. And another challenge with going after Hell Cannons early is that they're unbreakable. These nasty little stunties don't break due to leadership. So they'll fight to the last stunty, and it can get quite hard to try and get into the center of a formation and effectively disrupt these guys, especially when you've got terror bombing heroes in the air. So what's my army? I've got 2 Black Orcs in the front. This is actually a specifically anti-large build from the Greenskins, because I expected a lot of monsters from Chaos. It's pretty typical to see several Shaggoths rolling around, so again, this army was meant to counter that, or even cavalry. So I've got a couple of big guns, and in fact, this army right here is straight off of Ninja Hun's guide. I suggest you go give that guide a look. I don't use his army every time, but usually the armies he has are quite good, but you can also take the armies he has and modify them slightly based on what you think your opponent will do. Nasty hits from the Hell Cannon. When you get hit, you feel it. So both hits managed to land there. It takes off almost 25% of my health on a Black Orc, so that's a big deal. I've got a Night Gobbo, or a Night Goblin War Boss on a Cave Squig, and a couple of Night Gobbo Big Boss, or Gobbo Big Bosses on the Spider. I've got an Orc Shaman who was hoping to get in some good foots of Gork this match, so we'll see whether or not he does. Obviously, there's not the ideal target, which is cavalry. I've got 2 Gobbo Archers combined with the Rusty Heirs, and that's going to be great because the Rusty Heirs will take down the armor of a unit, and then the Gobbo Archers will become way more effective. I put my leadership out front. He's going to kind of take that bait, and so I'm going to pull back. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and rush his lines. I could just continue to pull back, but at some point, I'm going to have to rush him. And now that I've forced him off of that hill position, I'm kind of okay with rushing forward and trying to hit his defensive geometry. Defensive geometry. So, and these defensive geometry armies can work if you allow it to, or if you have the wrong army pick. And my army pick is not great for taking down this geometry. If I would have had a much heavier Black Orc build, then it could have probably just punched straight through the front of this. I'm also going to take a risk in this battle. I have a lot of magic with my Orc Shaman, and I could use Here We Go to make my guys very effective. So the combination of Wah and Here We Go could give my guys like plus 58 melee attack for a considerable amount of time. But I'm going to instead try and use my magic and see if the Foot of Gork works on artillery. I've never used it, and I'm even going to overcast the Foot of Gork to get my best chance. So we'll see whether or not my strategy works. His guys dive bomb in, and I try and slow them down, and I do slow them down considerably. But unfortunately not enough to keep them on the ground long enough for my big guns to respond. So that's one of the reasons why I like these nasty skulkers. They can be useful. All right, so we're in range. Let's see whether or not the foot does anything. So Gork gives them a mighty stomping, and it looks quite effective. Alas, it's not. It does almost nothing because the stunties just got blown away. They don't have enough mass for it to be effective. So now I'm at a downside. I used up all my magic on a spell that didn't work. I'm having to wait for it to rebuild, and I'm up against tough infantry. And I could have used that magic for an Here We Go. Like over here on this flank, an Here We Go would have been very, very helpful. My depleted black orcs and biggins probably could have cut through. And Here We Go right now where I'm fighting this Chaos Lord on a dragon would have been extremely helpful because I've got my biggins coming in. I am going to go ahead and use my rusty arrows and other arrows here. And the infantry fight, I've thrown in my leadership to prop up my very badly damaged black orcs who are taking on a chosen with great weapon and aspiring champion. At this point, the Chaos leadership gets pinned down. The only downside is it's pinned down with a unit of halberds nearby, and I have a lot of large. So I pull a unit of big guns loose from this fight, which is quite likely going to lose me this fight. Now, what would have been great is that Foot of Gork. I could have dropped it either right there, or there's another beautiful, delicious Chaos blob over here. So you got to know those spells before you come into battle, and my knowledge that the Foot of Gork wouldn't work on the artillery would have been key, and now I'm going to be fighting an uphill battle. Fortunately, the Rusty Airs are paying dividends here. The Chaos Lord hasn't been able to get back into the air because you can see how the cavalry slow him down considerably more, and he's taking an obscene amount of fire from my archers, and it's caused an immense amount of damage to him, which routes him from the battlefield. I didn't notice that the halberds routed too, so I started to pull away from the Exalted Hero, and then I'm like, no, we're going to stay here. And I managed to pull my leadership through. We're going to shut these Hell Cannons down. I've had enough of this. They've gotten way too many kills as it is. 68 and 15. 15's not so bad. 68's a lot of kills to take, especially considering quite a few of those were Black Orcs. I see the back of this blob facing my archers, so Rusty Arrows to the rescue. It's going to take a lot of the stats down on these guys. Rusty Arrows will actually have the range. Actually, they're firing somewhere else. That's kind of weird. I thought I gave all my archers an attack order over here, but whatever. These guys are getting hit in the back. That's not going to hurt me. These biggins put up a great fight, a really good fight. And even these Gabo Spearmen put up a decent fight, honestly. So the Hell Cannons are going down. The Exalted Hero's routed. Unfortunately for me, the Chaos Junkie on a dragon here has come back. His halberds have come back. The Skulkers are back, though, which is good. So I've got my Skulkers, I've got my Errors. My Orc Shaman manages to just barely survive a bit of a scuffle here. I'm going to pull my archers back, and I'm going to swing my cavalry into this oncoming infantry. And there is actually decent armor piercing on Boar Boy Biggins. I didn't get a great charge here, obviously, but I'm going to be able to get some work done. I used the smoke bomb over here with the Skulkers. It's at least going to slow this flank down and allow my Skulkers to get some kills. They do pretty good in that case. And then the Forsaken and the Chosen gets mopped up by my Boars. And then I'm going to use my leadership to pin down this huge infantry blob. And again, had I not used up all my magic, Foot of Gork is just screaming for this. So know your magic. It's the lesson here. Know your magic. So my Squig and my Gabo Big Bosses are holding down this big blob. My goal is to get rid of his remaining aspiring champions and swing around either this way or this way and rear charge this blob while we just hold this one in place. I'm going to try and focus one blob at a time. The Chaos Lord, out of desperation, is trying to help its troops, gets too close and gets driven off the battlefield by my archers. So huge benefit to me. My Shaman is going to stay alive. I just don't want him to die because it's going to swing the battle bar. And I can't have that, and at this point I've now swung my biggins around, and just in the nick of time too, because Chaos is breaking my other flank, and I managed to slam into the back of the Chaos forces who were pinned by my leadership contingent and struggling, and in this case it causes a mass rout amongst all of the Chaos troops, and right at the same time I got a Wah in there because I thought I was going to have to face even more troops. So a pretty good fight in the end, even though I screwed up bad with the Foot of Gork. It's something to make it known there to you, so even bringing a good army and the right spells, you still got to play it right to win, and by all means I had a pretty decent chance of losing because I threw away that Foot of Gork early, and it could have devastated a ton of his infantry and picked me up a win over one of his flanks a lot earlier. So definitely good to know what those spells can or can't do, so that's kind of why I wanted to show that. I got one more replay for you. This one, I wanted to bring it to you for a couple reasons, because I thought this was a cool map. I picked the Silver Spire map in a quick battle, and I was like, that's going to be fun. So I picked the Wood Elves, because we're on the Silver Spire, and then my opponent picked the Empire. And I picked a Durthu army that was modified slightly from its original intent. It actually had an ancient tree man, or a tree man, and Durthu, and I got rid of the Tree Man and got some extra Azrae spears. And I even hid my branch wraith over here, hoping to maybe use some... I thought I had the penumbral pendulum, and then I forgot I didn't actually bring it. I brought the withering instead. I thought about bringing a pendulum, and I was sitting over there in the woods thinking, yeah, I still have the pendulum. I'm going to get a real sneaky pendulum off on his guys. And yeah, it's... Again, might want to pay attention to the spells you brought. So, right off the bat here, so my army's 4 Eternal Guard and 3 Treekin with Durthu. Durthu has the Sword of Daith. My opponent's got some Reiksguard, Demigryph Knights with Halberds, and he's brought an anti-tree army, so this is going to be a fun challenge. The Amber Wizard and the General of the Empire are going to do great at dive bombing and causing terror and lots of damage. The Amber Wizard can basically peel away the support units of the larger monstrous units, so by using Flock of Doom, he can peel away the Eternal Guards and make it easier to shut down the core of the army, which is going to be my monstrous infantry and trees. And on top of that, I figured he had gunners. I could see this unit of handgunners. These guys were hidden here. I assumed that he had these as well, so I was fully expecting this. Let's see how I deal with it. His cavalry initially starts to run across the flank. My branch wraith stays hidden for the time being, and that's purposeful. I wanted the branch wraith hidden so he didn't get gang busted by the Amber Wizard and the General of the Empire. Sometimes it's good to keep those key units out of sight. Now, as soon as I saw the fire, I went ahead and clicked an attack order, and I knew Durthu was going to come under Withering Fire, and quite honestly, the best thing to do with Durthu probably would have been to push him through these woods where he would have had cover from the fire, while trying to push this flank with the spears and get to his guns. His guns are a major problem for both Durthu and the Treekin. You can see I go ahead and push the attack. I'm going to just push Durthu right in, and again, probably... I've got to do something about the guns. Keeping Durthu this close means that I have to do something about his guns. My best units to do that are my Azrae Spear. Fortunately, this one actually does have an opening here if I were to take advantage of it right there. And I should be taking advantage of it. These 2 spears have an opportunity to get to the flank, and at this point, the General of the Empire does see my branch wraith and thinks it's going to be smart to attack him amidst all these Azrae spears, and he's got another thing coming if he thinks that's a good idea. So now the General of the Empire is in big trouble. He's going to get ganged up on hard here. You can see the Azrae spear just start to chew away at him. And the branch wraith is actually a tougher target than you would think. Now this is a problem. The handgunners turn on me, and in the center, Durthu's barely alive. And the silver bullets are pouring it on thick, and it's not likely Durthu's going to survive at this point. So I'm thinking this is going to be a pretty quick game over for me, because I have mismicroed Durthu and not gotten to the gunners. However, on this flank, my opponent really goes all in, and it thinks that he can defeat these Azrae Spear and my branch wraith here, and he is going to pay mightily for that mistake. His General of the Empire had to use his potions to get away from me because of the immense damage that was taken. And his cavalry is now basically screwed. I'm going to be able to chase them down. Look how quick the Azrae Spears are. So his cavalry is going to eat it. They're going to get caught, and my branch wraith is going to go over here and disrupt these guns. Durthu was gunned down, and it's finally at this point that I recognize this opportunity to get through to his guns, so I'm going to take advantage of that. But my center is falling apart. Even though my Treekin are very much alive, their leadership is dying because of the presence of this General of the Empire. Has a huge impact on their leadership. My lord died. The Griffin is there. It's just all around bad. Now that you can see again these silver bullets causing their trouble, I thought I had given a movement order here, but I get delayed a moment. So my Azrae Spear very quickly mopped up his Reiksguard, chasing down his Demigryphs. They're going to come save my branch wraith who gets hit by the Demigryphs. And my opponent thinks he's going to get his guns away from me here, but he's most certainly not. So I now have a prayer because his guns are going to die. Stinking Amber Wizard gets me with a Doom Flock, which is going to hurt bad. But at this point, his handguns are dead, and my Azrae Spear cutting down most of his Demigryph Knights. But here's what can happen with the Flyers. So see how I've got his Demigryph Knights pretty well handled? My branch wraith needs some help and doesn't get it. His Amber Wizard uses the Terror and the rear charge here, and they're actually able to shut down my War Dancers in the process of killing Azrae Spears. It's frustrating that I'm immune to psychology with the War Dancers, but you can still lose your leadership. So they're not unbreakable. So fortunately for me, yeah, they're immune to psychology, but this unit routs because of the dang Amber Wizard. And the General of the Empire gets into the center and gives some much-needed helps to his troops because his troops were suffering badly. My branch wraith actually comes back from routing, and I managed to get a clutch regeneration here. Unfortunately, right at the exact same time, a bunch of my Eternal Guards got terrorized by the stinking General of the Empire. So another bad issue for me. These treekin are holding out great, and my Azrae Spear managed to pin down the silver bullets, and this unit gets chased by Reiksguard, which is unfortunate for me because I badly needed them back. But one unit of handgunners is down. The Amber Wizard, overly confident from his previous victory and supported by Demigryphs, thinks that this is going to be a good engagement, but they're about to find out otherwise as the silver bullets are hacked to the ground and the Amber Wizard is start to be pulled apart, and the Demigryphs bit off a little more than they could chew here. These Azrae Spear are not a ball of yarn or plaything, and they quickly decimate the Amber Wizard and the Demigryph Knights. So, pretty clutch victory, so it's actually still a pretty close fight. I have one big problem left, and that's the General of the Empire. And I was like, alright, we're going to get the Amber Wizard, but as the Amber Wizard routes, I'm chasing with my Azrae Spear, but this is the best I can do. I have to give up the chase because my troops are badly needed elsewhere on the battlefield. My Branch Wraith is luring in the Reiksguard here, but there's a unit of Great Swords, and I really don't want to tangle with the Great Swords with my Azrae Spear. So I'm going to let the Branch Wraith buy the farm. My regrouped Azrae Spear manages to chase off his silver bullets, so fortunately they're gone. Fight is slightly in favor of the Empire at this point because of their leadership, but I've got a number of units. There's an Azrae Spear here that I'm going to be able to pull back into the fight. Getting him over here to pin down the General of the Empire would have been clutch, but I decided to go for this fight over here, thinking I could quickly mop up the Great Swords and the Spears and free up a Treekin to help support my Azrae Spears. 2 Treekins supporting my Azrae Spears would give me considerably more power, and then these Azrae Spears can come back to the fight now too. These ones, again, are still forgotten momentarily. They're about to be reactivated, and my Treekin are doing a great job just mopping up useless stuff like the Tattersouls and Spears, and stinking Amber Wizard gets another dang Doom Flock on me. Fortunately, it only hits my Treekin, but it's enough to make them rout. The Treekin are not unbreakable. And then my Azrae Spear get hit hard by the Griffins, and again, they're immune to psychology, but their leadership can break, and it breaks because they got hit by 2 Griffins. So despite having fought valiantly, it's starting to look pretty bad for me. And my mistakes early on with Durthu were pretty bad. I need to get these units back into the battle as well. Getting all my regrouped units together quickly is going to be a good shot. If Durthu would have stayed to the tree lines where he would have been safer and given my Azrae Spear an opportunity to get to his handgunners, or my Treekin to bust through the main line and get to the handgunners, one of the two, I could have easily shut this fight down. So I'm a little bit irritated because although my opponent's army I think is pretty well chosen for anti-tree work, I feel like that some different decisions on my part definitely could have swayed this battle quite differently, and I feel like I definitely did have the tools to win this battle, and it really falls on me. So this is one of those fights that was interesting because looking back on it in perspective, I'm like, man, I think a couple of decisions different, like handling Durthu differently in the beginning would have kept my morale up higher and potentially allowed me to get to his handgunners with my Azrae Spear and other stuff a little quicker. I think my opponent used his flying squad pretty well for the most part. He got overconfident a couple of times, but this kind of stuff right here is what they excel at, and that's what he used them for the most part, which was breaking my leadership. And so, well done to him on that part. I like the pick of the Amber Wizard. It's definitely a good unit. It can do a lot of damage, and on the charge it can be pretty useful too. So it ends up being a valiant defeat for me, but it was a fun battle nonetheless, and I appreciated the good game that I got from my opponent. Like I said, most of my frustration here was on my own part, wishing that I would have played those scenarios a little bit differently. When you take a look at the kills, the Empire player lost a considerable number of his force, which is great. You know, it makes me feel like I got something done there, but I lost pretty much all mine as well. I had a considerably smaller force. And when you take a look at the kills here, it was obvious. My Azrae Spear just racking up kills for the most part. 2 of them, this one here looks deceptive. It only has 43 kills, but it actually got a lot of work done because it picked up 2 chevrons. I didn't put those on there. This was the one Azrae Spear that was probably somewhat wasted. The other 3 ended up getting quite a bit of work done. And again, the Treekin were doing what they were supposed to. You can see that even at the end of the battle, my Treekin are fairly alive. It was their leadership that got lost. And it was because I couldn't keep Durthu in the fight, because I charged him right in the center, and that was just a mistake. I shouldn't have done it. Durthu should have been piercing to get into the back lines, and then my Azrae Spear should have been working to the back lines. I mean, there's definitely ways I could have gotten things done. Like, for instance, I could have peeled off a turtle guard to go fight those spearmen that one of my Azrae Spear got tangled up with for so long. And then I could have had 2 Azrae Spear handle his cavalry, while the other 2 Azrae Spear supported Durthu in running down his handguns. And it would have been a nice synergy in the background, and I think it would have played out much better that way. So always be tactical in the way you're thinking. In this case, obviously made some mistakes. Hopefully this is educational for you all, though, as it was for me. And like I said, appreciate the good game from my opponent. Appreciate MSI sponsoring my channel. They're fantastic. If you all don't know, I've got some awesome giveaway coming up. I'm going to be giving away a whole gaming computer. Go check out some of the last videos. It's where I talk about it. Mrs. Heir is actually going to build that computer with me helping her. And so you're going to get a really awesome gift, one of you. And also, MSI is giving away one of 18 motherboards that you all should go check out too. If you're looking to build a Ryzen computer or want to make an upgrade and you want to win a motherboard, it's a great B350 motherboard. So go check out the link in the description. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Appreciate you all being here. If you want to subscribe and keep up with the videos, click my logo down there in the right-hand corner. It will keep you up to date, and you can be part of that ever-so-glorious notification squad that shows up first. HeirofCarthage signing out for now. I'll see you next time on the battlefields of Total War Warhammer.